Hello and welcome to another edition of ProtoBalls Talk Through Time and Space. I'm ProtoMet.
I'm Barry.
And today we are not going to be doing any time traveling.
No, just more sci-fi.
We'll be taking a look at the third episode of Star Trek The Original Series, Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Third episode? You would have thought by looking at this it would have been the first episode.
But in fact, it's actually the second.
It's a low budget episode.
Yeah. It's pretty light on the special effects. Pretty light on the characterization. It's no wonder why what they chose to go for the first aired episode was so well done. And this one is kind of bare bones.
This is... Okay. This is Charlie X, but done a little better, and with lower production values.
Yeah.
An omnipotent... a sort of omnipotent being invades the ship, causes all sorts of havoc and problems for everybody, and then tries to kill Kirk.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
In
Specifically the invader part, but...
In space, infiltrates the ship. Let's go with that way.
Yeah, that sounds a bit better, given what's actually going on. Also, you can tell that this is an early episode, not just from the looks, but also the fact that they're, starting out with trying to breach the barrier surrounding the galaxy. Which is such a weird concept.
What, that they're traveling around the galaxy?
No, that they're trying to go through a barrier at the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird thing is, it does get brought up in at least one other episode that I've seen. I just don't remember if it's in this series or Next Generation.
Yeah.
I swear it does get brought up, but it's such a weird thing. It never really gives a... The show never really gives a proper explanation for just what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, the gist of the episode is that the Enterprise tries to breach the barrier surrounding the galaxy, and it causes absolute havoc with the ship, wrecks some of the equipment. It kills 9 people, which I feel like the episode just kind of hand waves.
It brushes it under the rug hey, 9 people are dead, but here's this one really important character who's only here for this one episode. Oh, by the way, Bones isn't here either.
Yeah, no. Instead, we get an older gentleman who is not the same one that they had previously cast for the chief medical officer.
Yeah.
For the original pilot, which we'll get to another time.
Montgomery Scott does show up in this episode, though.
Which is more than he did in, what was he? Man Trap.
More than he did in Man Trap. George Takei also shows up.
But not nearly as much as he did in Man Trap.
Yes. Also,
there's a completely different Yellman. Uhura is completely absent. Spock is...
different.
It's clear that they're still trying to establish his character.
Spock is perfectly content to murder a man. That is not a joke.
I'm not laughing because I consider it a joke. I'm laughing because you're right.
Yeah. And then there's also a psychiatrist who only shows up in this episode and never again.
So anyway, one of the people that have been adversely affected by whatever attacked the ship as they tried to breach the barrier, the galactic barrier.
Yeah, the Gary Mitchell.
He gets hospitalized with silver eyes.
Yeah.
And this episode definitely goes out of its way to establish that he and Kirk are real good close friends with a long history, which means that he's not going to last very long.
Yeah.
I kind of hate it when you have a longer running series just suddenly introduce an established character or a friend of an established character that you're like, yeah, no, this character is just here for the emotional damage for the character that they're.
This character's just here to die. He's here to inflict emotional damage.
Which I'm fine with if they do it early on in a show, like, say, for example, Kamen Rider did the same thing in, like, episode 3, I want to say. And considering that show had 98 episodes, early enough where it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Oh, so
you get tricked into thinking that this might be a more recurring character, only for it to be an emotional damage.
Oh, you mean you prefer the Aerith route?
I mean, it's more effective.
I mean, I guess. Well, she shows up, what, a third of the way through the game and then dies halfway through?
No, she shows up, like, right at the beginning. Like, I'm pretty sure she's the first character the audience sees via cutscene.
Oh, maybe.
She gets killed off a third of the way through the game.
A third of the way through. Okay, yeah. Anyway,
But anyway, Mitchell quickly realizes that he's becoming more psychologically capable.
Yeah.
He just absolutely rushes through a bunch of books from the Enterprise's library of literature.
This Edge of the Galaxy bollocks is also kind of weird because later series kind of there's 4 sectors of the galaxy that we live in according to the Star Trek universe. There's the quadrants. We're in Alpha Quadrant, which is where the Romulan Empire, the Federation, and the Klingon Empire are based. But then there's also the Beta and Delta quadrants that become very important in later series. The Beta Quadrant is where the Borgs come from.
But it's also incredibly limiting when you have this show all about exploring the vast expanse of space, and then the first episode is like, oh, but we're only focusing on this one little galaxy.
Yeah, we're focusing on just our galaxy. And it's like, okay, then what's the point?
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
And
within a certain perimeter.
Yeah, I suppose so. And mind you, within this galaxy, there is a spot in which you can find God.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways. Moving on. Mitchell just starts having psychic powers, and he starts becoming power hungry. Because now...
And Kirk is conflicted about it. Also, the lady psychiatrist becomes fascinated with the whole thing.
Spoiler alert, she's one too!
She's an Esper! Also, this episode makes a huge deal about Espers just being an accepted part of the universe. Which is never relevant outside of this episode. And any time a character has Esper powers, it's treated as oh, this is hugely different. You must be an alien species. Something.
Hey, Q, you show off tremendous, magical powers that nobody else could possibly contain. Instead, we're just gonna hand wave it as that's just a thing his species can do. That's just a thing his entire species can do.
Which isn't a bad thing. It's just that this one episode makes it seem like Espers are just not that unusual, to the point where they have like a standardized test to evaluate an individual's Esper qualifications.
So there are new types.
Basically.
Yeah. Anyway, so Mitchell eventually starts causing havoc on the ship, and so Spock is like, we need to kill him, and Kirk's like, no, stop, don't, please.
Please, he's my friend.
He's my friend, I can't kill him.
Well, they do have to make a stop off at a nearby planet because of the freak out incident that occurred at the galactic barrier.
Because they broke their warp drive.
They broke a lot more than just their warp drive. They gotta go to an unmanned station on this abandoned planet and hope they have enough parts for them.
Not necessarily abandoned, it's just fully automated.
So practically abandoned.
Practically abandoned. Abandoned by God.
Abandoned in principle.
By the corporate overlords. So God. After all, you worship the mighty dollar.
This is a post-scarcity society.
Doesn't mean there can't be corporations. I mean, have you seen the... Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, now I am.
It's a next generation Deep Space Nine thing.
Oh, okay.
The, I can't think of their names. The big ears.
The Quarks?
Not Quark. Quark is one of them.
Quark is one. The Ferengi.
Yeah, the Ferengi. The Ferengi.
Yeah, but the Ferengi aren't Federation. The Federation are post-scarcity.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Predominantly post-scarcity.
Oh, no, about them not being part of the Federation. I wouldn't be so sure about that if I were you.
Well, where I'm at, they're not part of the Federation.
But at the end of Deep Space Nine, they become members of the Federation.
Well, I haven't even started on Deep Space Nine, so spoilers.
So anyway, so they managed to confine Mitchell, but then he kills Lee, Kelso, which is a crazy name, Kelso.
He strangles him with a cable when Mitchell is on the planet and he's up on the ship repairing the engine.
Yes. Garroting him with some wire. Not even like piano wires.
It's just a cord.
Just a cord.
Just a thick cord.
And then, of course, Dr. Denner. Listen, there's not a lot to talk about with this episode.
No.
It's about as straightforward as Charlie X is, but at least Charlie X is bad, so there's more to make fun of.
Also, there's none of that weird face that when the psychic powers are used, so we can't use an image from here.
He's just blank faced.
Like that's how Charlie X should have handled things a bit.
Yeah, him being blank faced instead of him having silly looks.
I'm making the face. Nobody can see.
So, anyways, yeah. So Spock gets knocked out, Kirk gets knocked out, and then the psychiatrist reveals that, she's also had Esper powers. It just took a little while longer to manifest. And so they're down on this planet, and Mitchell and Denner, Dr. Denner, what her name is, they're walking around and they're like, now we're gods. So now we can control this planet.
We can do literally whatever we want.
Except escape. Can't escape. We're just stuck here.
If they have godlike powers, couldn't they theoretically make a spaceship more powerful than the Enterprise?
Let's not be unreasonable. They're not Q.
I mean, maybe if given enough time, they would have developed their powers enough, but Kirk and Spock recover. Kirk tells Spock to take the rest of the crew back up to the Enterprise and, wait a half hour. And if he doesn't show up, leave. And then Kirk takes a phaser rifle, which I don't think ever pops up ever again. I don't think they ever use rifles, phaser or otherwise, again.
No, because they only use small armed phasers, while as Klingons and Romulans are much more used to plasma rifles.
So it's just weird that here in this first, air quotes, episode, we get introduced to a weapon that will never be relevant ever again. And isn't even relevant now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because while Kirk goes to confront Mitchell is like, I know what Kirk's here. I'm just gonna drop a rock on him.
I think phaser rifles do exist within the Federation. It's just not used much. I think it's only used by civilians. So, whatever, you know?
It's just a weird thing to introduce and then never talk about again within the confines of this particular show.
To be fair, this was a pilot.
A second pilot.
Second pilot, because the cage did so bad.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. It's a couple of episodes from now.
Mitchell tries to drop a boulder on Kirk. Kirk lives. Then Mitchell directly confronts Kirk and proceeds to make him a grave with his name, James R. Kirk.
Which is not what his name is. Shows what kind of friend he is.
Don't even know what my middle initial is.
Tiberius.
James Tiberius Kirk.
Got it. Yeah, it's a weird one.
So then they get into a fist fight.
And then they kung fu fight.
And then Kirk's shirt gets torn. Because of course it does.
Of course it is. You gotta show off William Shatner's burly body. And they're punching and they're kicking each other and they're doing backflips and kick flips and all sorts of shit. And Kirk karate chops Mitchell, and Mitchell dodges out of the way and goes bullet time. And wait, no, sorry, this is the 60s. It's not that action packed.
It's action packed for the 60s, but like TV action packed.
more like oh, we're grabbing onto each other and we're clinching and we're trying to push each other off each other. And Kirk eventually, because Mitchell's weakened by Denner.
Oh yeah, Denner intervenes and helps Kirk because she realizes, oh man, us having his powers is not a good thing.
And so Kirk punches him, and then goes for the plasma rifle, the phaser rifle, and shoots, and he gets knocked back and goes into the grave. And then the boulder comes down, and he's trapped there. Although theoretically, with his Esper powers, he could have probably gotten rid of it.
Yeah, but Darren probably strangled him to death while he's knocked out. Before, I don't know, yeeting herself into a pool of lava for all we care. Yes. I don't even know if this planet has lava because Kirk leaves.
It is a lithium mine, so you never know.
But yeah, basically Kirk leaves. Denner's like, yeah, no, we're not long for this world. I'll just off myself or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's what the wiki says, alright? Alright. Before Mitchell can kill Kirk, Denner attacks him using her powers and weakens him. Mitchell fatally injures Denner, but before he can recover from the effort, Kirk uses a phaser rifle to create a rock slide, killing Mitchell. That's what the wiki says. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't remember if that's what happened.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
It's not listen, this is a slightly better episode than Charlie X, but it's also very dry, very low budget, and very weird.
Yeah, as far as being a thought-provoking episode, it's fine, but once you get to the climax and the action, it falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good episode to think about.
And the episode ends on, like, Spock being like, so why'd you put their deaths so positively on the record?
Because Kirk is like, they died in the line of duty defending the Enterprise.
Yeah. And Spock is just like, why? They tried to kill you, you know? And Kirk is just like, they didn't ask that to happen to them. They didn't ask for that.
Also, it should be noted that this whole thing started because they found a piece of space debris that turned out to be a flight recorder for another ship that approached the galactic barrier and was
that they could barely even recover. I don't think did they get any data from it? I don't think they did.
Not enough to fully appreciate just what was going on, because basically what happened to that ship was the same thing that happens with Mitchell. So they didn't glean enough information from it, clearly, to the point where I forgot that was even a thing until right now when we're talking about the end of the episode. That feels like padding in retrospect.
It is. It really is. It's just like, oh, hey, guys, so here's a ship from 200 years ago, the SS Valiant. Apparently, in their flight logs, they were looking up ESP stuff in their data before the ship decided to self-destruct. That's crazy. Also, what ship has a self-destruct sequence?
The Enterprise from Next Generation.
That is true. Also, the Enterprise from Star Trek 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that answers your question.
I'm saying 200 years ago, like NASA ships, who the fuck puts a self-destruct button? This is the thing about fiction, alright? This is actually going to be a tangent. This is the thing about fiction that fucking pisses me off, where it's set in the modern day. But then you have shit like, hey, here's a button to blow up the facility in case something happens. And it's like, why would you need a button to blow up the facility? If you're a secret underground lab, okay, that's one thing. But if you're just like, oh,
if you're Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah, if you're like, oh, hey, here's a factory that, creates munitions. We need to blow it up. Here's a button.
Just a button.
A button.
I mean, at least with Next Generation, it's a case where both the captain and the vice captain have to be present, and they both have to verbally agree to the self-destruct. And even then, it's on a time limit. So if they change their mind, they can stop the self-destruct.
It's the same.
That's smart.
It's the same with Star Trek 3, except I think it's the captain, it's the helms. Captain, helmsman, and then also the chief engineer to activate the self-destruct sequence. So,
which, again, that's fine. I get it. It's understandable. That's a good way of doing it.
That's actually how it is in naval submarines. In naval nuclear submarines, this is actually a real-life fact. It requires a 3-man approval. It needs the captain, and then it needs the chief executive officer on board, who is not the captain, but is he is the officer that can countermand the captain. Basically, they can basically take over if they believe that the captain is in dereliction of duty, and then I think it's also the first officer that also needs approval. So it needs a 3-man group, and in real life, this has prevented many a disaster. There's a famous story during the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, where a Russian submarine almost blew up an American ship with nuclear weapons, but and both the captain and the first mate wanted to do it, and then the executive officer was like, "Nope, we're not doing this. This is dumb. I'm telling you guys, this is dumb." And we all got lucky. So, anyways,
yeah, we kind of stopped talking about this episode for a bit.
Yeah,
which is just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a fine episode. It's like an average episode if you can forgive all of the weird if you can ignore all the weird inconsistencies that happens with the later series, it's a fine episode.
Yeah, ignore the inconsistencies and the kind of lackluster final episode.
This
is also a rather thought-provoking episode.
Also the costumes. Jesus Christ, they're horrible in this.
Wool sweaters for everyone.
It's wool sweaters for everyone. You can see the zippers on the side. You can see a zipper down the shoulder.
For some reason.
For some reason, I'm not sure why. With later Star Trek outfits, it would actually be a set of straps down the center. and that's mostly for the movies. Those are movie inventions, and then you get to Next Generation.
Where it's just jumpsuits all the way.
Yeah, it's Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and not Enterprise.
Did they change the design of that midway through the series because all the actors was like, yeah, no, we're not comfortable with these.
Yeah, I believe so. What the Jesus Christ! Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and
Voyager.
And Voyager. I keep forgetting Voyager. There's a lot of shows to remember, guys. But yes, all three had very similar outfits for the Federation, and that ends up just sort of being the de facto style for the rest of the series.
But again, it's not prison in this episode.
No, it's not prison.
It's just sweaters. Sweaters with zippers.
For what it's worth, I think as far as the outfits go,
They didn't even get the colors down.
no, they didn't. They was like a muted color.
It's definitely a muted color to the point where, despite the fact that, what's his name? Scotty.
Yep.
Is technically wearing a red uniform, it looks like a very pale orange to the point where you could mistake it for the yellow uniforms that Kirk and Spock are both wearing.
Yeah, it's
like the only time you can definitively tell that a character is wearing a different color is if they're wearing blue.
pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it's like because Spock I think Spock wears a blue uniform.
Not in this.
Not in this, but he's wearing a yellow.
Usually he wears a blue science officer's uniform.
Yes.
But here he's like yellow.
Yeah, and we established that like blue is science, yellow is command, and red is engineering or security.
Which kind of gets thrown out the window in Next Generation once Geordi goes from red to yellow.
Yeah, that we don't talk about that. Although technically he does become an officer, so it kind of makes sense, I think.
Same with Worf. He gets the same color swaps.
Yeah, because he becomes the chief security officer.
Yeah.
Because I think it's Tasha that is the chief of security at first.
And she wears yellow.
And she wears yellow, and then Worf becomes the chief of security, and he wears yellow. And then I think Geordi becomes chief of engineering, and so he switches to yellow. Now, Scotty is the chief engineer in this, but he likes the red, so he sticks with the red. As far as the outfits throughout the entire series go, I will say, I think the Star Trek 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are my favorites. There's something about them that I just like. They feel like proper Navy uniforms with like the
sashes and shit.
Yeah, with the sash and the strap that you can and the button up. It just looks really good. I don't know why. It's aesthetically.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
It's aesthetically pleasing to me.
Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, even if they're wrong.
How dare you?
No, but I actually think you have a valid point.
Yeah, and like for iconic uniforms, I mean, it's like it's original series or Next Generation. It's really what it comes down to, because those are the two most influential series.
I think the movie uniforms are like limited to like ceremonial garb.
Yeah. Well, could be.
Because I think some that at least look like the movie uniforms do show up in Next Generation, if I remember correctly.
It's possible.
It's usually limited to like either very high-ranking members of the Federation or like ceremonial events.
Yeah. I know admirals tend to wear the movie uniforms throughout the series.
Again, this is way off topic for the episode.
Hey, we're talking about uniforms and how shitty these uniforms are.
It's just telling that we're talking more about how uniforms from later on in this very same series and beyond, and not so much how they look in this.
Yeah. Well, And this is also, I think, this is one of the few episodes. This is one of the few episodes that's almost entirely like a closed space. It's almost entirely within the confines of all you see are just Federation uniforms. You don't see any civilians in this episode, which
It's also got a very limited cast for as many characters established or otherwise that show up in this. We're really only focusing on 3.5 of them.
Hey now, well, they did lose 11 people in the disaster.
I thought it was 9. Or did that jump up to a later casualty?
That jumped up to 11 because of Mitchell and Denner.
Okay. And what was it, Forbes?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
The guy who got strangled by a cable.
Listen, Kirk gets a lot of people killed in the series. So anyways, what would you rate the episode?
4.
5, maybe. It's better than Charlie X, I'll give it that much.
Yeah.
But not by much.
I mean, as far as being a thought-provoking episode, it's fine, but once you get to, like, how rough the whole setup is compared to the rest of the series, and just how punch 'em up that climax is, it kind of loses a lot of momentum.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about with the episode. It's a plain pilot episode and that had ideas that weren't set in stone until like the man trap.
I mean, it was established enough to get the show actually aired, but
right,
it wasn't quite on the same level as The Cage, which is worth talking about.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And this first season has a lot of great episodes though, and this ain't one of them.
No.
The first 3 episodes, Man Trap, Charlie X, and this, where no man, where no man has gone before. There's not a lot to talk about in them. There's some interesting stuff there, but they're not highlights. I think the first actual good episode in the series is the Menagerie, which we'll get to eventually.
I would argue that I think the next episode after this, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that one might be worth talking about. But
maybe
I might be misremembering what episode comes next.
But yeah, to get to the next episode, we'll have to do it another time.
Because we're finishing up this episode.
We're finishing up this episode now.
Okay, bye.
Bye.